Hello, today I'll be working on my 2016 CX-5. I'm going to be addressing the outer tie rod end. As you can see here, I'm wiggling the wheel back and forth, putting my hands at the 9 and 3 o'clock position, and as you can see here, I'm wiggling it back and forth. You can see the tie rod just jumping back and forth here on the knuckle. Should not do this. So with the car jacked up and secured, I took off the wheel. And then turned the wheels to the right in this case, towards the engine, so I could get better access to the tie rod end. I then sprayed it with penetrating lubricant. Using a set of wrenches, I was able to unlock the lock nut. This was very tough, I'll admit. I then removed the cotter pin, so I had access to the nut. And then using a breaker bar with a 17mm socket, I was able to break the nut free. This is also tight to the end there, so here is the nut off the tie rod end. Now here I'm using a ball joint separator, but it works out in my case here. You have the potential of ripping the boot if this were a new tie rod end, so keep that in mind, but in this case I don't need the boot. It doesn't matter if it rips. And I'm just tightening the bolt down until it pops. And now you have to count how many rotations it is to take off the tie rod end. And then I like to make sure which direction and orientation it is as I take it off as well. Here is a shot of me comparing the two. There's a plastic cover on the new tie rod end that will come off before we install. And then I just put it back on the same orientation and screw it on the same amount of times it took to take off. Once it's on, I like to slide it through back through the knuckle. I did clean up the knuckle off camera, and I applied some anti-seize as well, so my future self can thank me later on. I then tightened up the jam nut using the same set of wrenches. There is a torque spec on this, but I wasn't able to verify it, so I just did it as tight as I could. I don't have the crow's foot. And then here I am tightening the nut up, as well as torquing it to its correct spec. You'll notice the castle nut there is kind of blocking the hole for the cotter pin. So I tighten it up a bit more just to get a clear shot of the hole. Now I'll be inserting the cotter pin so the nut does not back off. I like to bend the tabs back over themselves here, or back over the nut. And I am putting in the grease fitting in now. This took a few attempts. I did out the other ones. It took a while to get the thread started, but once I got it going there, I used a 3/8 wrench to tighten it up. There's no torque spec on this one. You just have to kind of do it by feel, but you don't want to over tighten because you'll rip out the threads, and that would be a bad day. Then you want to insert grease into the tie rod. This is a bit difficult to do. You can see the boot's all pumped up with grease. Point the grease fitting away from the wheel so you don't have to take the wheel off to access it. And then here I'm going back to my 3 and 9 o'clock positions and just giving the tire a wiggle, and it's moving together. Thank you for watching.